Welcome to the AEW Fight Game Media All Elite recap for the 2025 pay-per-view. I am your host, Jeremy Finestone, and I'm here to talk to you about all of the things that happened here at All In 2025. This was a fantastic show, everybody. I thought it delivered on all ends. These were the top stories that I saw as we were coming out of this thing. Number one, MJF wins the Casino Gauntlet. Second, Adam Cole vacated and needed to take a hiatus, which we'll discuss later. Dustin Rhodes wins the TNT title. JoJo Offerman shows up on AEW. The Young Bucks lose their EVP status. Athena wins the Women's Gauntlet. Adam Copeland saves Christian. Okada is the unified champion. Danielson and Darby return. And Hangman Page is your new All Elite World Heavyweight Champion. This was, in fact, a full show. Tony Khan went all in on this thing, and it was pretty impressive to see just how willing he was to give fan service, maybe at the detriment for the company as a whole, but trying to make sure that he sent this huge crowd home happy to make sure that in the future, say in London next year, people are going to believe that when you do a big show, the company's going to deliver on a big show. And man, I thought they absolutely delivered on a big show tonight. So join me in the comments if you have thoughts, feedback, anything at all regarding this regarding the show as we're talking about it. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Go ahead and give your likes, and subscribe if you are joining us for the first time. We've got a wonderful slate of programming here on Fight Game Media. Right now, we've got the Dynamite Show with Jeff Hawkins and Paul Fontaine every Wednesday covering Dynamite, as a matter of fact, everything that happens and just deconstructing everything at all. The Power Bombshells, they did a pre-show today before AEW All In, but they usually go live on Sunday morning, afternoon, depending on your time zone. Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. We've got my show, Speaking of Strong Style, with myself and Stephen Conway, in which we break down all things New Japan. And then we also have Garrett Gonzalez and Paul Fontaine. They talk about the takedown and they do their hot takes every Monday about the wrestling business. We got the 5-Star Joshi show. And yeah, that's pretty much everything we have to offer. So while we talk about all the things that we have to offer here, let's talk about what AEW had to offer in this pay-per-view. So I will get to the pre-show later, but from my understanding, I wasn't able to make most of it. It looked like a lot of fun. I did get to see part of the 8-man tag with Ishii and Big Boom AJ. And my friends, you have not lived until you've seen Big Boom AJ and Tomohiro Ishii doing coordinated double teams against their opponents. Absolutely tremendous stuff. The Callis family, Trent, Rocky Romero, they absolutely knew the assignment in this match. And you can hate on Big Boom AJ, right? You can look at this guy and you can see that it's just comedy and you're not here for this in a lot of ways. Well, the honest truth is there are people that are here for it, and it does seem to do business, and he's competent in the ring. They're likable. They have a charm that is somewhat undeniable. And for that, you just kind of have to, shut your mouth and just be like, all right, this is how it's going to be. And that's fine. That is totally fine. So, that was the match that we had there. And, honestly, it was okay. We also had FTR versus the was it the Outrunners? Yes, it was. I got the screen right up there. They ran it back again, and honestly, I thought it was not as good as their collision match, but I thought that it served an excellent story, and it was an excellent opportunity for the Outrunners to get on the show, which is highly deserved for them. There was not a whole lot of opportunities for tag teams on this show if you weren't on the main card. So good for them on that one. And then FTR was going to be seen later on. And then, yeah, we ended up with the main show, and we had the six-man match, which was Gabe Kidd, Claudio, and Wheeler versus Joe, Hobbs, and Shibata. This was a pretty good match, indicative of everything that is typically what you are going to expect from an AEW opener. So I would say that it was exactly what it needed to be. I liked it a lot. I thought that it was tons of power moves, including a Doomsday power bomb after a botched fastball special. That's basically how the match ended, with Samoa Joe hit a muscle buster on Yuta and the Ops retained. So afterwards, the Death Riders took out the Ops, including Pillmanizing Joe, presumably to negate their presence in the Texas Death match later on. Joe is stretchered. Tony Schiavone completely sells it. After that, Excalibur, in true Excalibur fashion, somberly goes to a DraftKings commercial, and in which we get a muted Kevin Hart hawking DraftKings. We then come back, and we're getting right into the men's casino battle royal. But first, let's check some of these comments that we got here today. Fernando Zayas. Hello, Fernando. Feel free to check in on what you thought about the best match on the show. He thought it was the best pay-per-view on the show. Jonathan Messenger enjoyed the show, and it ended on the biggest high possible. The face run-ins were timed weirdly. How does Will get stretchered? Darby, Danielson, Swerve were great moments. Jonathan, you're absolutely right. I thought that they delivered on the right guys. I want to call them the Portland Trailblazers, if you will. Darby, Danielson, and Swerve coming in to be the Cowboys posse and help him secure the win. We were all kind of thinking Darby was coming back. You knew Swerve was the guy that had to make the decision. How many people out there thought Danielson was like a lock to come back here? I was leaning more and more and more as he was, making appearances here, there, everywhere in Arena Mexico. But honestly, I didn't think he was going to be it until I was vibing the match, and there he was. So we'll talk about it more, but I'd love to hear what you all think. Fernando Zayas says, which match should have been on Collision, Fernando? The Trios match or the Outrunners versus FTR? Because that one was on Collision a couple weeks ago. Jonathan Messenger says, I loved FTR more on commentary more than I liked the match, but always good to see more people on a stadium show. Yeah, I was just trying to let the embarrassment of riches, and definitely surprised, a few people that, showed up. Surprised people who didn't show up. I felt like those Casino Gauntlets might have, might have been missing a few people. I don't know. There was a lot of repetitiveness in the middle of it, but we'll get to that when we get there. All right, let's get to the Casino Battle Royal. All right, so, man, I'm going to have fun recapping this one. All right, Briscoe and MJF first with MVP on commentary. Briscoe repeatedly exacting revenge throughout this whole thing. And, then Ricochet shows up and he gets the ball chance. Bandito's next in at 4, and he gets the huge pop. Briscoe then ragdoll Ricochet during this time, gets him over the ropes, gets him on it, goes on a heat streak. Takeshita out next and goes for Briscoe. This sequence right here is the beginning of a lot of repetition where, like, every Royal Rumble or every kind of next man up, they come in, they get their heat for 30 seconds, run wild, and then right back into it. Because there are no eliminations, it gets real rough, and all of a sudden you just see the same thing over and over and over again without a sense of relief. So, Takeshita out next, and he goes for Briscoe. Mystico is out next, and MJF absolutely loses his mind, when he comes out. But then, Mystico, God bless this man. His music's playing. He's feeling it. He's just going up and down to the ring top. Everyone coming. At any point, someone could have gotten a pinfall during here, but no. Mystico is a star, and the stars have a certain cadence, and that is what we learned tonight. He then goes to proceed to botch a couple spots on the outside, and tries to get right. And eventually, Briscoe and Mystico are both trying to make Matt tap in the middle of the ring. Josh Alexander next. What do you think happens? Spends about 30 seconds getting heat on everybody in the ring, and we're at a rinse and repeat mode. After that, we got Anthony Bowens, the 5-star Tool player, which was enjoyable. Roddy next. MJF getting receipts from everyone that hates him. Brody King begins to just absolutely kill anyone. Again, rinse and repeat. Juice Robinson then just shows up, and all black tights. He rips off the Bang Bang Gang shirt when he comes out. Completely clean shaven. Very unsettling look for a babyface. He went from flamboyant and out of his mind to the complete opposite, to just a guy in this battle royal, which, not great in all honesty, but it is what it is. Let's see what happened here. There we go. Ooh. While we're getting on to this, I'm going to bring on Lady Wrestling X, Keila Cash, because she and I decided we were going to have a conversation about what she thought about the show as one of the first guests to come on. Keila, you have only a few minutes before you're doing your own podcast on the Wrap, recapping all things WWE tonight. You are a busy individual. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you tonight?
I'm living the dream. I just finished a 6-hour pay-per-view and rolling solo on a podcast recapping it, and so far, so good.
Hey, you're making it through. You survived a 6-hour show like it's like WrestleMania back in the day when they ended at midnight. But at least with AEW All In ending at a respectable hour of like 6:00 p.m. Pacific time, it works. I'm watching Saturday night's main event right now, and we got Goldberg in the ring doing his retirement speech. I have it on mute, so I don't know what he's saying right now.
Sure. The beautiful city of Atlanta has given me so many great memories, and you fans have given me so many great memories. And you know what else has given us great memories is this AEW show tonight. I want to know, while you were doing double duty, what were the big takeaways and the things that you just stuck with you coming out of the show?
Man, I have to say the main event was everything that I wanted and so much more. Like, we got the payoff of Hangman finally winning back the AEW World Championship from Jon Moxley in a finish that we expected, run-ins galore, but it all made sense at the end of the day. And it just paid off a story that has been built up for months. And I'm very happy to see how it all ended, that you had a layup and Tony Khan hit the shot. And I'm very happy that he did that. And I just thought that everything that the main event was supposed to be delivered in a big way. But my biggest takeaway was actually the AEW women's division. That stood out to me in a big way. The talent, the matches. I thought that the gauntlet match for the women specifically cleared the guys. It really did.
I would agree with that. I thought I was in the middle of recapping the men's gauntlet, and there was a lot of repetition. It was very formulaic, and before they got to the end, and a lot of it was the pop of the return or the guy, or at the very end, once you got through Juice, which was a bizarre one in and of itself, and then Kota Ibushi, we got right to the finish we all thought was going to happen, which was MJF doing that. However, on the women's side, the advertisement was all around Chris Statlander and Megan Bayne, but then you had Athena actually come in and win it, so it gave more of a sense of unpredictability to the whole thing.
It really did. The finish was outstanding. The fans love Athena, hometown girl. And she's been over so long in Ring of Honor as the longest reigning champion in that promotion's history. And now to be able to bring that flavor to AEW on a bigger stage, on the biggest stage of the year. And now she gets to face the AEW Women's World Champion, which we now know is going to be Toni Storm, possibly at All Out, most likely. Or Forbidden Door. One of the two.
I was kind of spitballing this, and I kind of felt like whoever, like, I think Sari is going to have a challenger at Forbidden Door from someone in AEW. She's the IWGP Women's Champion. She just won it from Shuri, who showed up tonight as part of the Casino Gauntlet. So I kind of wondered if Mercedes might challenge for that title and maybe not even win that and go on like a losing streak. But now you have Toni versus Athena, which is very fresh.
It's fresh. It's new. We haven't seen it in AEW, so I'm looking forward to it. I was surprised that Toni retained the championship, but I think it's the first sign of Mercedes losing everything, possibly in the quest to win the AEW World Championship at some point down the road. Because once you lose, it starts the domino effect of you losing everything down the road.
Yeah, it feels like MJF is kind of destined to lose with this title shot, but I feel like if he loses, the other one kind of has to win. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, I get that vibe too. So I feel like he has to ultimately eat the loss to Hangman. They're paying off a storyline that's been built up for months, which I appreciate. They didn't forget about it, and now you've kind of built it up perfectly, possibly, maybe, most likely at All Out in September.
Yeah, so what else stood out to you besides that? So we have Thekla. I thought she looked really good. I think her charisma is going to get her very, very far. Were there any other women that kind of, besides Willow, who I think may have stolen the show during the Casino Gauntlet? Was there anyone else that kind of popped in your mind to you?
You know, it's always Statlander for me. Willow, who I absolutely adore, stood out to me. Megan Bain is starting to show more charisma, which I like to see. Like, she's a powerhouse, but I think that the barrier in the beginning was definitely the charisma and the personality. And that's standing out a bit more, too. I just think that the body of the women's division is so much stronger than it's ever been. The talent is there. And I think that the conversation needs to be had. Like, maybe one day very soon, you can have the ladies main event one of your pay-per-views, because I think the depth is there. I think it's there. It's a long time coming. I think it really speaks to hard work paying off and Toni dedicating his time to building this division up. But now it's time to take that next step. And I think the next step is having the women main event a pay-per-view down the road. And it seems like it's a strong possibility they're going to be introducing tag team titles soon for the women's division.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you think that it was the right call to have less people in the women's Casino Gauntlet, but have more outside interference with like side people? You know what I mean? Like, did it feel like it was too cheap of a way to, you know, cut corners to make sure that, you know, you had all these things that you want to do and all these women to get featured, but you quite simply did not want to put as many women into the Casino Gauntlet as men before? Did that feel that way at the time to you, or did it feel a little bit organic and everything kind of worked for you?
I think it worked for me because I think that it allowed the match to breathe a bit, and you didn't want to overstuff it, and you had side storylines that you were trying to pay off, especially with the surprise appearance of Harley Cameron down the stretch as well. So I think the side items kind of played into the gauntlet a little bit better, because you could have thrown her in there, but it would have overstuffed the match, in my opinion. So I think the booking and the layout, I think you needed some variety between the two gauntlet matches, and I thought that the ladies match was a bit more easy breezy in terms of the booking and letting things kind of marinate and breathe, versus the men that was all about the entrances, all about the returns, all about the pops, but less about the story at the end of the match.
Keila, best match, worst match, and should have been on Collision.
Oh man, that tag team title match, Collision, outside of Adam Copeland's return, Collision worthy, because the moment they bitched out Jet Speed weekly and then you add in another tag team, that tells me that the build for your original match failed on every level. So you had to do like, well, let's add on this tag team and make it pop a little bit more. That could have been Collision worthy outside of Copeland's return. Best match, the main event, it was special, but my second favorite match was definitely the tag team of Osprey and Swerve versus the Young Bucks. That was like the best pure wrestling match on the show, for sure.
My vibe on that match felt like they wanted to be as good or better as the Young Bucks versus Hangman Page and Kenny Omega from Revolution many, many years ago.
I kind of felt that too, because for a long time that was the standard of what a great, awesome tag team match was in AEW. And I think they cleared that bar tonight. I think the sequences were amazing. The drama was incredible. The Bucks, I will say, like, anytime you want to question their greatness, they always over deliver when it counts most. And now they're going to go on an extended vacation. They're going to go on the Roman holiday for the next 6 months, and it's well deserved. Enjoy the Roman holiday. You've earned it, guys.
I call it the Stanford holiday.
Either one works for me.
Yeah, that's not going to work for me, boss.
You know, they've earned it. They got that in their contract. Listen, we work 3 months on, 6 months off.
When your boss wants you to be booked that way, there's no problem at all.
No, it's like they built
Everybody's
it in.
happy with it, except every other tag team in the division.
Like, when can I get the Young Bucks rub? Like, I have to wait 6 months. Well, it's built in their contract now because they're legends, and they got it like that. So why not? So
I'm going to let you go real quick, but I have one more question for you because I got to get back to the men's Casino Gauntlet, which is what I was recapping at the time. I need your spiciest analysis of Juice Robinson.
Ooh, my goodness.
So I explained it. He completely clean shaven, wearing the most basic black tank top and pants and boots, a little bit of reflective gear, just a guy. Like, he lost everything, and I don't know what the intentionality was to this.
You know, I'm gonna make a weird comparison. It's that time that Dolph Ziggler appeared on Monday Night Raw, and he dyed his hair brunette, and every inch of his charisma went away. Everything that made Dolph Ziggler went to hell. We made the joke he was Evan Braun, like the Evan Bourne wannabe lookalike. So when you take away what makes you special, aesthetically speaking, you just become another generic guy. You live in a household with timeless Toni Storm. You can't come back looking generic like the local yokel. You can't come back looking basic. You live in a household with an otherworldly personality, and you're coming back looking like a basic bitch. No, I wasn't here for the look. He needs to grow back everything he lost. He needs to get back his old gear, because the wild, crazy man is where he thrives. Generic wrestler number 5, not so much.
Yep. Crazy man. He looked like he just wants to be the leading man to Toni Storm in the 40s now. You know, he's got the he just wants to be the dashing leading man. And I see it, you know, a little bit of swashbuckler to it, but he needs a little bit of flair, he needs a little bit of color, and I was utterly shocked about how him and a couple other people came off as just guys in those Casino Gauntlets.
Yeah, that was not the best look, and Juice Robinson should never be just a guy. Now, if he wants to be Clark Gable from the 40s, sure, but you have to have Clark Gable charisma. And I think that when you take away what makes you, you just become another guy on the roster. And I think that there's too many guys on the roster for you to be just another guy at this point. So you got to find a way to stand out. And he knows he can do it. But I think that tonight was just a miss in terms of the execution of his return.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with the Bang Bang Gang. I think there's no Bang Bang Gang without Jay White, and when he's back, it feels like it's gonna be better if there's a Bang Bang Gang at all. So there's actually one more thing that I ran across before I let you go, and it is Toni Storm at the press conference. Are you ready for this?
What did she say?
Toni's here with the Luther and her orange juice. This is all courtesy of Trevor Dame on the X. Toni calls this one of the greatest days in AEW history, and Toni's match one between the greatest wrestlers in AEW history. Toni says she creamed her panties and is not selling them. Just kidding, she doesn't wear panties. She thanks Mercedes for cleaning all 4 of her lips. She jokingly alluded to Schiavone in a stall, knowing what he did. Toni gives an FU and a congratulations to Athena. She thanks MVP for giving her the right weed for her psychological disorders, and the Rizzler for giving her the right cheese for her disorders. FUs to Wendy Richter and Toni's own mom. Toni asked how she feels after the match. She says, like dog crap. Toni's asked what she learned about herself being AEW champion. She says she learned absolutely nothing. She learned nothing new since the last time that reporter asked her that question, which was 24 hours ago.
My mouth is agape. I love Toni Storm, one of the great gifts in our industry who must be treasured and protected at all times. I love this woman. And I will say, like, for the longest time, I said Hikaru Shida was the greatest AEW Women's World Champion ever. No, it is now Toni Storm, who is the greatest AEW Women's World Champion who ever lived. It's just facts.
She's the greatest AEW Women's World Champion, bar none. But I'm going to give myself credit. I didn't break once trying to read that out loud.
You didn't.
Oh my God. That was tough.
Listen, the 4 lips line, I'm surprised you stayed on the air.
I kept going and I was just like, I just keep on moving. Just keep on moving. Keila, you've got a show of your own in about 5 minutes with Salty Scott recapping all the WWE that you could put in a 8-ounce can. So I wish you all the luck in recapping that. I hope that you have all the laughs, and I hope everyone joins you after they're done watching with us. So thank you again for coming in, giving your feedback on All In 2025, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you guys. Enjoy the show. We're sliding over to the special edition of the WWE post-wrap show on the very same YouTube channel live via the Fight Game Media Network.
Two first tonight.
Two first, the crossover of the crossover of the crossover. Very happy to be here. Take care, Jeremy. Hold it down, Solo. And guys, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
We are back to just me. Sorry, guys. I know. It's wild. Let's get back to that Casino Gauntlet recap that we were doing. We got a couple other people popping in throughout the evening, but we're going to talk about everything as it goes, and we will get back to that. But first, actually, let's get back to some of these comments while we were talking with Keila. As we were talking about Juice, Crash TV mentioned, Juice sporting a literal baby face was kind of unsettling, to be honest. It's good to see him back, though. Yeah, I hope there's a story behind it, because you go in that, you kind of want the backstory there, and I'm not 100% sure where we're going with this, but definitely good to see him back. It was December, right? Like late November, December. That freak leg break, and he finished a match. Beast. Been a while. All right, Fernando Diaz, Athena versus Timeless Toni. It's going to be fire. I agree with you. Crash TV, Bobby Lashley is going to be crucial to the whole MJF angle, in my opinion. Dynamics of that relationship will change drastically. Totally unsustainable. MJF tolerated because they hold the gold. So here's the thing about this. We'll get back to the Casino Gauntlet in a second. Bobby Lashley's the main event guy, right? And MJF's the main event guy. And eventually, Bobby Lashley is going to be interested in the same gold that MJF is. There's not enough room at the top for both of them. And there's a part of me that thinks that Bobby Lashley is waiting for an opportunity in which MJF's like, no, that's actually mine. So I'm curious where this goes. You have a bunch of heels, but eventually one of them is going to have to be babyface for some reason or another. It just feels that way. They're getting cheered. They're getting a lot of love. It's just the way it is. We'll get to more of that when we get to the tag match, because there was a lot set up after that tag match. But I also wonder if getting the belts off of them eventually puts Bobby into a scenario with MJF. Maria Gracielis, hello. Yes, Maria, there is a lot of wrestling going on right now. That is the understatement of the evening. Let's see. Fernando, Juice Robinson is a whole lot of fun. Crash TV says Juice looks like Popeye from the 40s at the minute. That's pretty fair. And Juice is joining the American wing of the House of Torture with that getup. He needs more white ugliness paint, something like that. I'm a House of Torture aficionado. I love Evil and his wacky group of ne'er-do-wells, much to the detriment of my podcast partner, Stephen Conway. I hate everything that House of Torture stands for. All right, let's get back to it. So this gauntlet just kept going and going and going. Gates of Agony tried to show up and kill Juice, but no go. The Guns return and kill Gates of Agony. So you had all that outside interference. They all erase each other. After that scrum, Kota Ibushi returns. He proceeds to kick the living daylights out of everyone. And then Mordos is next. And then he proceeds to kill everyone with a particularly impressive spear on Brody. Takeshita hits a double German on Ricochet and Bandito. And then Max Caster is next, running his promo for the Max Maniacs. He gets jobbed out immediately by Anthony Bowens and Roddy. Roddy is then hit with the his finish by Briscoe. MJF steals the pin, and then here we are. MJF, the heir apparent, the guy we all thought that was going to win this match, did in fact win this match. There was a little bit of an angle where Roddy was sticking around after the match, and we ended up finding out it was not for a good reason. But before that, we had the Stokely announced that FTR was going to be ringside for that tag title match, which kind of, raised Elmo to like, okay, so they're going to be involved in the match somehow, or set up for the next feud, which remains to be seen. There could be a big match at Forbidden Door, or there could be, something for All Out immediately after it. There are plenty of big match opportunities coming up, so we will see on that one. The 4-way for VTR was announced that Cole had vacated the TNT title. Adam Cole then comes out, and his music is coming out, and he's decidedly smaller. He's wearing a tank top, and he looks upset. And, Tony Khan made an announcement earlier in the day that, he was going to vacate the title. And there was some specific wording that they used that I don't want to repeat because I don't want to get it wrong. But it led you to believe that he was not in a condition to perform tonight. And that led you to a lot of different conclusions. But when you saw him come out and you saw the outpouring from the rest of the roster and Roddy and Kyle being outside, he comes out there and he speaks, and he's like, you can tell almost immediately he's going away for a while. And he speaks of his highest and lowest moments. And, he's crying. He gets a little bit choked up, and it looks like it's really hard. And this guy, you got to remember, he's been bitten by the injury bug over and over and over again. And he comes back and he's set back with something else. And we don't know what it is, but we all know that he's not going to be back next week. And, he's a guy that I truly enjoy watching. And I think he's brought a lot of enjoyment to a lot of fans around the world. And I wish nothing but the best for him going forward. So from there, Daniel Garcia, Sammy Guevara, Dustin Rhodes, and Kyle Fletcher had a 4-way for the vacant TNT title. And there's new entrance music for Fletcher. Crowd is 100% dead from this after the Cole announcement. Not even a Spanish fly by Sammy to Garcia is getting the crowd back. It's no one's fault, but it felt like it was a little bit doomed for a while. They ended up doing 3 low blows on Kyle Fletcher, which made me think he was going to win the match for a while, but eventually Dustin win on an inside cradle off of a lion tamer, and the crowd was shocked. We all kind of thought Fletcher was going to win the title from Adam Cole, and so you kind of thought Fletcher was going to win this instead. And this is one of those situations where you make a change in booking and you make the crowd happy after what happened with Adam Cole. No one was going to remember that moment as being Fletcher's moment if he was going to win the title in that 4-way. But if you give the crowd something to be happy about, which is Dustin Rhodes finishing his own story or having that moment in Texas, and really just play that up and make the crowd come alive again for something that has a bit of happiness, that has a bit of resonance, that everything's going to be okay. Kind of like the Superman movie, like the hope. They're still the last outlaw, that kind of thing. I think that was the right call, and it's okay in a week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, or in 4 weeks if Dustin Rhodes loses that title to Kyle Fletcher. It really is okay. He can go out there and demand, I had a one-on-one shot, and I still want my one-on-one shot. And he can win that title, and all will be fine. And you can get him set up to, be the guy one day to be the top guy in the promotion. These are all things that you can do. And all I'm saying is tonight it was okay that it wasn't Fletcher's night. It was probably the right call. So we then got to Swerve and Osprey versus the Young Bucks. And if it didn't get your attention before the match even started, you had the Will Osprey Assassin's Creed entrance, which was flippy and awesome and very video game-like. I'm not an Assassin's Creed guy, but I like my fair share of video games. And then, to follow that up, we had JoJo Offerman singing Ain't Nobody by Chaka Khan, and this was fantastic. And the fact that JoJo Offerman did this the night before WWE Evolution, the same week a list came out in which it was documented how much hate female and women of color get in pro wrestling, for her to come out for AEW instead of WWE in any way is bound to put a target on her back, and I consider her unbelievably brave and unbelievably ballsy for doing this. And I'll tell you what, she killed it. She did a great job with that song, and I was like, man, I will listen to more of her music. And that's the best compliment I can give on her. So Fernando Gaia said she was awesome on that. Got a lot of people thanking Moxley and Timeless Tony Storm in the thing. Bleach Fan 2.0 is coming in, talking about the MVPs for him on the thing. And yeah, a lot of people. Maria is all about Timeless. Bleach Fan. Yeah, so we got a lot of fans, and I tend to think that was probably the right call for them to win. So, all right, then we're back to the Young Bucks match. Let's get to that match. Like I mentioned with Keila, this felt like they wanted to match the energy of Hangman and Omega versus the Young Bucks from like 4 years ago. And for all intents and purposes, I think they did, but it was a little bit of a different match. The Young Bucks entered to their ridiculous Revolutionary War entrance, and the Bucks had an early advantage. Will with the spectacular counter to save himself, and Swerve tagged in for the heat. There was a 30-second sequence around here that ended with Canadian destroyers and a house call and hidden blade that woke up the crowd. We had a lot of back and forth, a lot of the Young Bucks power bomb off the rope, jump to the top rope, do a flip off the thing to another guy, all the signature moves that they do. But we ended up getting up to a point where Swerve ended up taking the bullet for Will while Will was hung up on the ropes, and kind of paying back that story in which Swerve and Will united for the first time. Swerve fought back from an EVT trigger, and then Will and Swerve gave a stomp pile driver where Will was holding one of the Bucks, and Swerve did the Swerve stomp on top of him to really kill him. And then Swerve and Osprey hit a dual house call hidden blade for the pin, and the Bucks lose their EVP status, and Swerve and Osprey can challenge for the world title at any point, which it was an interesting stipulation. You could go either way. Bucks being an EVP and storyline doesn't really matter, honestly. You could still treat them with that same clout, but you also have kind of the story of they've lost money from this or whatever. It's fine. The tension of Swerve and Will not being able to challenge for the big title, but instead kind of in the periphery and maybe challenge for the tag titles. There's a lot of intrigue to that, but ultimately, I think not putting limitations on your big stars like they did Cody initially, where if you lost that match, you couldn't ever challenge for the title. It didn't serve any genuine good purpose. Stars need to be stars and don't need to be held back with weird conditional ideas in order to, justify booking certain guys in the main event, even though other guys are more popular. Let's get to Crash TV's comment about Adam Cole. Just an unfortunate situation with Adam Cole last minute. No other storyline threads that really play off that would be detrimental to the rest of the talent that's actually in the TNT program. Yeah, the only other thing is that I think it's interesting. I think Daniel Garcia might have gotten a little something from being kind of a number 2 to Adam Cole more so than Roddy or Kyle. Like, I feel like he is the best option to kind of step into that role that Adam Cole had, even though I don't even know if anyone can step into that role. He's kind of a unique personality, and he's not someone that you can just replace with somebody else. I don't know. It's a tricky situation. Really, really tricky situation. So, all right, let's get back to the women's Casino Gauntlet Battle Royal, which was, Crash TV said, I think Dan Garcia has a part to play in the original booking of that match. You're probably not wrong. Those three were all dancing a dance. Fletcher, Garcia, and Cole. Either, Garcia was going to turn, which eventually he was, but there were a lot of people turning tonight. I don't know if that would have messed up some plans later on, or if he inadvertently cost Cole the title. A lot of stuff to think about, but thank you for that. Thank you for that thought. Mega Man Chris Statlander start the gauntlet. The most compelling moment of their one-on-one was the Tope Suicida by Bane. Willow was next, and I think I'm undervaluing Willow when I say that she looked like $1 million. I've been a huge Willow fan since she had the match with Mercedes, in which Mercedes broke her foot like 3 years ago, and I have been waiting for the opportunity for Tony Khan to see what he has with Willow and pull the trigger with her. And I honestly hope that this next year is Willow's year, because I look at her and I can see in every way, shape, and form that talent is doing the work to be the best talent that she can be, and good for her. After that, Tamello is next. Let's run back what I said about the Casino Gauntlet men's match. Rinse and repeat it this time. Get some heat. We'll do that. I just thought the combination of women that they brought in there was probably better for the women in the long run. I felt like they got something out of it, and all the multi-women matches that they've been doing for the last couple of months really paid off for them in terms of their work rate in this match. So, Tamello's next. Harley Cameron showed up, and I honestly thought this was Britt Baker for a minute. A couple other people thought it was Allie the Bunny, but no, it took a second, and it was Harley Cameron in a face mask because of the storyline of her face getting busted by Penelope on the steps. And she beat up Penelope and kicked off with that. Thekla was next, and she got the heat on Willow. Bane and Statlander gave a doomsday device to Willow, and then Aminata is next, and we were running back all the way again. Thekla and her. Full credit to her. Mina came out, and she wasted no time running to the entrance, which, might add, is one of the few people who has an entrance in which requires stopping, performing, and coming back. No. Mina came out, ran it down, and immediately got in the ring. After that, it was Athena. Then we had Thunder Rosa, Shuri, and then Alex Winter. Stat gave Megan Bayne the safest powerbomb from the apron to to the floor with the entirety of the women catching her. And the finish came when Mina went for a figure four and Athena came off the top rope with a stunner on her to get the win. Athena winning was the right call. I think we all kind of felt, if you were paying attention, Athena was all over the advertisement, the announcement, the stadium, press release, ticket sales. Athena was always front and center, and there was this presumption that she was going to be in a match with Mercedes because it just felt like the right time to do it. That ended up not being the case because for the biggest show of the year, Toni wanted to put the biggest women's match on the year, which unfortunately was Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné, and no one's going to argue that, right? But here's Athena. She's been sitting in Ring of Honor for a better part of 2 or 3 years. We've been all waiting for that moment, and tonight it happened. We all know how good she is. We all know that she is the winningest champion in like the AEW Ring of Honor locker room. And if it wasn't going to be tonight, we didn't know what it was going to be. But I think the time for her being on Ring of Honor all the time might be up, and it's nothing but good things for the women's division as a result of that elevation of Athena. All right, let's see here. Crash TV, that's what I was thinking with Daniel Garcia, unintentional interference, which cost Adam Cole. They teased Daniel Garcia joining the Don Callis family, but probably a red herring or to plant a seed down the road that they could revisit. Yeah, Don Callis is probably going to have everyone on the roster, and it's going to be Callis, a Callis family war versus AEW eventually. You know, just a hostile takeover story because it's not about business. It's about, a guy acquiring enough talent that he can actually legitimately take over the locker room and run the company. And that's one way to do it. I hadn't really thought about it until, we were talking about it like that, but it was something. All right. So we are moving on to the man. No, where is this thing? There we go. The triple threat. I had to look it up, but I made sure I got it right. Westside Guns and Smoke DZA came out for the Hurt Syndicate entrance. I almost wrote Hurt Business, and I almost screwed that up. Came out there, lots of team-up moves from Jet Speed, highlighting their speed and high flying. Nick Wayne was doing the majority of the work for the Patriarchy. There was an impressive belly-to-back overhead suplex by Shelton Benjamin, I think on the Speedball. It was amazing that when you're watching this match and you think about his time in WWE, and he was called the creepy little bastard, and in this one, he is by and far the biggest man there. So you always think about size and all these things, and that is definitely one of those interesting comparisons that you see there. Another thing I can notice is 2 guys went to Japan for the Best of the Super Juniors, and they ended up on the AEW pay-per-view, and a lot of other guys didn't. So good on Kevin Knight and Nick Wayne for taking a chance, taking a bet on themselves, going out there and doing what they can do. So after that, we were going through. FTR began asking questions about the launch of the tags. I was with FTR about that one. The story was that Jet was trying to incapacitate to hurt and try and the Patriarchy and the Jet Setters were trying to incapacitate the Hurt Syndicate in order to beat each other and get them out of the way. At some point, Bobby pushed Christian into FTR, which got FTR all hot and bothered. They got up on the apron. Christian ate a spear from Bobby when FTR got involved. And then that's when things got interesting. MJF, MVP, the Hurt Syndicate, they all take off and go up the ring. And FTR's in the ring, and they're about to, take down little Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian, and Christian kind of gets in front of them and says, no, you don't deal with them. We're getting out of here. And as they're leaving, Nick Wayne gives a kill switch to Christian. And as FTR watches, Mama Wayne slaps Christian, and Nick gives the concerto attempt to him. But who should come out for the save but one Adam Copeland? Like, I gave Mystico a little bit of crap about this. I gave Mina Shirakawa props about this. But you'll be shocked to know that Copeland did the Penta. Adam Copeland came out as his friend, ally, person he used to care about, is potentially about to get, incapacitated permanently with the chair. So he runs with his belt, his bat spike, one side of the ring as the song's playing, runs to the other side of the ramp, runs down to the middle of the ring, runs down to the middle of the ramp. You got the thing where the pyro's gonna go off, and then he does his pyro dance, and then he comes out. He's been waiting to do that for a long time, guys. He's been waiting a long time. So Christian be damned, he was gonna do his music. So he clears the ring, he takes the guys out, and then he pulls Christian up, and he says to Christian with the microphone in hand, "Go find yourself," which, if you'll remember, is a reflection of what Christian responded to Copeland when Copeland gave his heartfelt plea to Christian that they team up and they could win the tag titles together and they could go on a run. We are all this time later, and Christian has lost everything, and instead of Copeland being his friend, he told him as a friend he needed to go find himself. Here we are, and now we have a viable, super, super, super viable tag team division. You now have potentially Copeland and Christian. You can do Swerve and Osprey as a tag team. You have FTR. You have the Hurt Syndicate. That's at least 4 of the top teams that you can do. You can elevate some teams in there. You have the Outrunners that you're building. You have Jet Speed, which there's going to have to be a lot of work with that one in order to make sure that they are rehabilitated, but it's not impossible. Kevin Knight is the goods. Speedball Mike Bailey, I think he is exactly where he is supposed to be on this card. Good matches, but he's not going to be the top champion of any belt. Maybe the TNT title at some point, but I don't see much beyond that. There are too many mouths to feed, and his skill set feels like it serves a certain niche rather than anything else. To answer Cash Wheeler's question, according to Crash TV, yes, it was weird to wish Mama Wade with your mom with sexual innuendo implied. I see why they put them with Stoke with their might work. Yeah, Cash Wheeler should probably be away from a mic and away from firearms and away from driving while in do so. I wish him nothing but the best, and I think he's a talented wrestler, but sometimes he can get himself into trouble. And the last thing I want to do is get myself into trouble with him. So we're not going to do that. All right. What are we on to next? All right. We got Mercedes and Toni. Man, we're really blowing through this recap, aren't we? Let's see here. So, I don't know about you guys. I really thought Mercedes was going to win this match. There's something telling me that Mercedes was doing it, and clearly, whatever was telling me this was wrong, but I do think this match over-delivered. And I don't know how that's possible because I had really high expectations. This was the first of a triple main event. Toni Storm, and Mercedes Moné. I believe this is the first time match that these two have ever had with each other. It's possible they had one in WWE, but I really don't think so. So we're 4.5 hours into this show. It's a long show. Like, blowing my mind how long this show is. And so Moné comes out with a cheer squad. She's wearing a tapestry robe of all her wins, much like Okada has worn a tapestry robe of his entire time in New Japan. The cheer squad is all wearing her belts. The first 6 in this coterie of 10 are all wearing her belt collector belts, and really just going strong with this whole I am inevitable kind of vibe. Toni comes out to her entrance, and it's very I wanted to say it was Charlie Chaplin at first, but it felt just more like classic I am a star 40s. This is my final performance kind of vibe. This is my greatest performance. And she comes out and it's all black and white, so you can't see anything. And then when it goes to color, you find that her outfit is, for the most part, either flesh colored or black and white. And her face is painted white, almost like a Harley Quinn clown. Really, really striking look. And by the end of the match, it was all gone, for the most part, minus the blood from her broken nose. But it was, quite frankly, just, I've never been a big fan of this timeless Toni Storm look, but I cannot deny that this is fantastic. It's just an unbelievably iconic performance, and Tony Khan, Toni Storm, RJ City, whoever else was involved in the iteration of Toni Storm in this form, they landed on something that is even more valuable than gold. Like finding a signature women's wrestler that you can build your entire promotion around. And they have that in Toni Storm. Unbelievably important. So, really early on, Toni gets hit by Mercedes while Luther is holding her, and from that point on, Luther is completely out of the match. Toni recovers and tries to get Mercedes on the top rope, but Mercedes hits a sunset flip powerbomb. Toni barely hits a Storm Zero, and Mercedes weakly kicks out. Toni gets a chicken wing on her, but Mercedes powers out, and then Mercedes hits an ankle lock. Toni gets color from a chop battle after this, and then Mercedes gets a suplex from Toni that Mercedes converts into a Kimura lock behind her arm. And that happens because Mercedes powers out. Toni then gets her with a judo throw with a corkscrew flare. I'm not even sure how this happened, but it was amazing. After that, we had a backstabber by Moné, a statement maker. Toni gave Moné 3 Storm Zeros in a row. And when that didn't get the pin, I kind of thought that was it for Toni Storm. But they did a fantastic job just, introducing that notion. Because to me, 3 finishers in a row is a done deal. And I guess Mercedes is, protected enough where she really had to die to lose this match. So after those Storm Zeros, Moné tried to lock in an STF. Moné hit the backstabber. But afterwards, Toni recovered and hit a butt bomb. We got "This is awesome" chant, and then Toni got Mercedes up on the second rope and hit a avalanche Storm Zero for the win. This absolutely over-delivered, and I thought was a tremendously fantastic match. These women should be so proud of themselves, and frankly, there's not much that I can say other than well done to you. You deserve all the credit in the world. Let's see here. We have some other stuff from the scrum. Athena is out, and Toni called Athena's win the biggest yet in AEW. Athena says it's been a wild and long week. Media Wednesday, Collision Thursday, Ring of Honor Friday, and the AEW pay-per-view. Her voice is giving out, and this is the most she's done back-to-back since Japan. She says, Athena says AEW is now Athena Elite Wrestling. Athena says she's watched Moné Storm in the arena from a side stage, and says now that she's in AEW, she's here to make a legacy for herself. And that indicates to me, and at least Trevor Dave as well, that's a full-time call-up. And she's asked what she attributes to her success. She says it's her fans and her determination to be the best. She likes to show it, not say it. Says it was a little arrogant when she came to AEW and got humbled quickly and had to work double hard in the gym and watching footage. She was asked if her win today is more impressive than someone having their retirement in Atlanta. And she said, who? Before saying she focused only on herself and list her accomplishment, as she should. Asked about being authentic. She found that from failure. She had learned over and over and over that being something that she's not was not going to get her where she needed to be. And she talked about doing weird things on the indies and being booed by 12 people because it wasn't organic. She's asked about the legacy of Texas, the Sportatorium, Von Erich's Dustin, and she says, you're taught it when you're here. She plugged the first women's show on August 9th, and they're running a women's show in Texas for the Metroplex. And then the final guest is Hangman and the emotional Hangman Page. You know what? We're going to do that after we talk about the main event. Let's see here. We got a couple more comments. Time with Toni presentation is tremendous, but strongest point is her personality. That's generational. She could transpose that onto pretty much any character gimmick because promos and deliveries are all her. I would agree with that. All right, let's get to the second of the three main events. We had Okada and Omega. Their win-loss record between the two before this match was Okada had 1 win. Omega had 2 wins, and they had 1 draw between the two. And as we all know at this point, the record is now 2-1. It was a slow start. It was psychological. A lot of callbacks to like Okada tapping Omega's chest patronizingly instead of chopping him hard. Early on, it looked like they were trying to show that Omega hurt his eye. Not necessarily sure if he did or he didn't, but that was the thing that they were trying to sell. There was a drop kick to the floor by Okada. Don Callis attacked Omega when the ref wasn't looking. And this is when I kind of was thinking about the match, and I thought, this match is really interesting because we did a watch back. Myself and Garrett Gonzalez, my podcast partner, Stephen Conway, recapping Wrestle Kingdom 11 and everything that happened there. Well, watching that match between Okada and Omega, which was their first matchup, you had an Omega that was out to prove something, that he could beat this guy. And ultimately, he didn't beat him that night, but it was an aggressive, calculated, brash Omega and an overconfident, brash Okada here in that match. But when you watch the match tonight, there was aggressiveness by Okada, but there wasn't that sense of, I need to prove anything by Omega. It was a lot more psychological, in which he knew that he had already been able to beat Omega, and on a one-on-one fair fight, he probably would have beaten him tonight. But because it's AEW and because of, the abundance of many things and the opportunities going forth, they've still teased Okada and Takeshita and a couple other opportunities here. We have the Continental Classic, and perhaps, Omega is in that instead. But we have opportunities for Okada to build up and be that guy and have the match once a month or once every other month to really elevate this title. And I would have had Omega do it. I would have had Omega win, but it's fine. It was fine no matter what happened here. So we'll get back to the match. The dropkick to the back by Omega, call back to one of their matches. Okada was favoring the Rainmaker arm, and Okada did a fine dropkick throughout the match, but he did at least 2 lazy top rope elbows. At this point, it was starting to feel like 2 old warriors fighting, not the young, hungry warriors that they were 9 years ago. The battle wounds, the scars, the wear and tear on the body. It's reflective in these matches, and that's why the psychology was so important. And these were men meeting after years of wars. Okada hit a Rainmaker and a pile driver after escaping a one-winged angel. Okada is selling his guts to the moon, but he hits a shoulder set German on Okada. Callis gets involved. Kenny hits the one-winged angel, but Callis pulls the ref out. They get a new ref in. Omega tries to hit the one-winged angel again, but Okada escapes. Okada hits the Rainmaker, and then Okada won the match. And I said something kind of blithely last week where if it's anything less than a 5-star match, people are going to be disappointed. And I don't think people were disappointed by this match, but I also don't think it was a 5-star match. You know, they had 6-star matches, and I don't know. It felt like a 4.5, 4.75. It may be a week 5. It could. It totally could. I'm not saying it's not, but when I'm talking to my friend Dave and we talk about these shows, I get a vibe of by asking about a score on another match on the show. And when I'm thinking this, like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a 5 to me, but I could be surprised. What do you guys think? Was this a 5-star match? Was this a 6-star match? Was this a 4.5-star match? Kind of want to get your guys' feelings on that one. And then while we are talking about the main event, maybe we'll double back on that one. So, the main event, we got Hangman and Jon Moxley. Texas Death Match. I asked 10 different people, how do you win a Texas Death Match? What are the rules of a Texas Death Match? Exactly what entails a Texas Death Match? Do you remember what happened in the last Texas Death Match? Nobody could remember. And I guarantee you, when this one is over and down the line, we're going to have the same bit of ambiguity, other than these are hellaciously violent matches. The introduction of blood and the possibility of hepatitis seems incredibly prevalent, and it was a bloodbath. Now, granted, I managed to watch a bloodbath match even worse than this like 2 weeks ago, and I can say that I wasn't exactly sure that that did me any favor watching this one, but it did desensitize me to it just a little bit. And if you're wondering, the match was El Desperado versus Jun Kasai from the it was the Death Pain Invitational that was on New Japan World for $22, and I feel like I should have been paid $22 for witnessing the bloodbath from that match, but I digress. We had what seems to be the dumping of the kitchen sink for years worth of storylines, in which was paid off in this main event match. A fantastic match, probably the best match on the show. It started out with guy on guitar and a woman whistling as Hangman comes out, finally, on the babyface side of his entrance. Old babyface music. Felt distinctly like after CM Punk, after everyone leaving, the Miros, the Blacks, just the doldrums. This felt like a metaphor of AEW trying to heal itself. And that was the distinct sense of the rehabilitation of Hangman Page, as he was a metaphor for all the stuff that the company went through. Just trying to pick itself up after the CM Punk disaster. Some of these people just trying to, erase what happened in the past and forging a new path. And I feel like the story that Swerve and Hangman had was a proxy to that kind of story where, Page sat down on Collision and said, I'm doing what I should have done 2 years ago. And if you can't read between the lines on that one, I feel like you should try and read between the lines on that one. Swerve and Hangman were intricately involved in crafting of this storyline, and you could tell the care and precision that they worked with and Tony Khan in presenting the right way of making their story feel like the most important story in all of AEW. And Hangman was always meant to be the guy they build the promotion around, but Swerve never was. And Swerve has made himself unmistakably essential to the company. Like, if Omega wasn't able to go tomorrow, it would be terrible and we would be really sad. But I think it would be more okay than, say, if Swerve couldn't go tomorrow. And that's kind of how I feel about Swerve right now. He is just an absolute cog to the creative forces that are here in AEW. So let's get back to this match. Hangman Page gashed Mox with a fork almost immediately. Just blood pumping everywhere. In return, Moxley gashed Page with a barbed wire to the face. So we're very clear here. This is what this is going to be. Mox then brought a barbed wire chair to the ring, stuffed it in the corner. They began to fight in the corner with tables at the ringside all around them. Marina Shafir pulls out a tub of broken glass. Moxley drags Page all the way through this. Moxley's dragging him through hell, setting him up for a powerbomb from the top rope. Hangman takes a barbed wire dragging on his back, and while Moxley is celebrating, Page gives him a powerbomb through two steel chairs set up with the backside side by side. What I like to call the painful way of taking the chairs to the back. Wheeler then came out to attack Page ineffectively, and then Page gave Moxley the angel wings afterwards. Page then sent Shafir through a table and she tried to interfere with the buckshot lariat. I thought that was going to take Marina Shafir through the end of the match, but oh no, she is superhuman and she could recover from a table spot. Deadeye into glass. Osprey comes out to help when the Death Riders get there. Kid gave Osprey a package pile driver. Moxley gave a suplex to Page through the barbed wire. Complete bloodbath. Osprey is Pillmanized by Cesaro during all this. The paramedics come out and make a show of getting him onto the stretcher, so you know that he is out of commission, and you feel like Hangman Page has nothing left. He is boned. But then, all of a sudden, you see Darby coming down from the rafters. And then you see Bryan Danielson in a Blue Panther mask give the Busaiku knees. And all of a sudden, you realize that Mox has seen a ghost. Deadeye through a table. Danielson and Darby clear the ring of the Death Riders. The Bucks then show up and give Page an EVP trigger. Moxley then stomps him into a bed of nails, and then giving him a Death Rider DDT. And he is going to wrap this thing up. He tells Marina, hey, go get the briefcase. Let's do this thing. And so she goes around to the ring announce area and grabs the briefcase. And when she comes back, she realizes she's handcuffed to the table by Prince Nana. And he comes out and he does his little dance. And as the Bucks have spent the time counting whether Page is going to make the 10 count or whether Mox is truly going to kill him, Swerve shows up from the backside with that chain from Collision wrapped around his wrist and gives a good wallop to both of the Young Bucks. And then he looks at Page. Page is on all fours, wide-eyed, that crazy man Hangman Page look, and he sees Swerve. And Swerve throws him the chain that Swerve got from him at Collision in the locker room and after he incapacitated the Bucks. From there, Page uses it, knocks Moxley, gets an opportunity for a buckshot lariat, in which Moxley takes it to the buckshot lariat right on the bed of nails, and then Hangman Page wraps that chain around him, and just like in Revolution 2022, 2023, whenever it was in San Francisco, he hung Jon Moxley from the top of the ring overhead like a hangman to win his second AEW World Heavyweight title as Jon Moxley ferociously taps out. And afterwards, Hangman Page sits in the ring with his bloody hands trying to open up the briefcase, and you think he's not going to do it, and he just sits there and he just starts weeping as he pulls out the belt we haven't seen since October 2024, and he holds it high over his head as Swerve Strickland, with a slight smile on his face, stands ringside, knowing maybe, just maybe, there's hope for us all. And you know what? What a hell of a match, a hell of a way to wrap up year 5 of AEW, the biggest show of the year. And I tend to think that we are in a good place going forward. So let's see what the Hangman press conference had in store for us before we talk about what's going on in the future for AEW. Final guest is the one you want. Hangman. Toni asks if he's okay. Hangman says, no, he is not. An emotional Page is near tears as he talks about how he's so proud of what he's done for the last 6 years. Toni thanks Page for being the face of the company. Page says he had to win tonight. He thought he had reached a downhill trajectory in life after winning the world title the first time. He had to prove to himself he still had the potential to do more. Page asked today if today is a vindication of his first reign. Page says when he first won it, his goal was to just win it, and he never thought about the morning after. This time he understands what it meant to hold the title and what tomorrow will be like. Page says he's very proud of this and the company, and he has expectations of himself. Page asked about his moment with Swerve tonight. Long pause. I'm going to have to think about that for a long time before I have an answer, he says. In character, he talks about how they ruined each other's lives. Tonight, he chose on his own to make my life better. Page says he doesn't know if Swerve did it for him, AEW, or Swerve himself. He may never figure that out, but he feels good to be able to let go of a little bit of the past and be excited about the future. Page asked about MJF. Reporter says he has Page's number, which Adam takes offense to. He has my number. Says he's not afraid of MJF in the syndicate, not that MJF isn't a formidable challenger, so there's nothing they can do to take the title from him. Page asked about getting in the headspace for these death matches. Page says you can't get in the headspace until you're physically in it. He slept 8 hours the last 3 or 4 nights. He's been an absolute mess all week in space today. He's shocked that meet and greets went well. Page says he's crying so much this week, but he's proud of that. One of the first time in wrestling a man has gotten applause for crying. Someone bring my dad back to life and show him this, says Trevor Dame. Page talks about smelling blood in this match since he was scared when he did one against Archer, but discovered that he liked them. Says he shouldn't be allowed to do them. A big, deep, long, emotional Toni hanger hug. Give me 1 second here. After that, Toni is on his own. He says thanks for the fans to coming in for 4 days straight. Calls tonight their best event ever. Certainly the best ending. Their most fans in the U.S. and their most lucrative. Toni says they're coming home to Chicago and they're going to have a great time. And that is where we are at there. So we have a lot to look forward to. There was, in fact, nothing announced for Dynamite on Wednesday. But what I do have is someone who was at the show, and we're going to wrap up the show with some live reactions from one Kevin Ely, who, as you all know, was a former guest or former host on the Boom, which was our AEW recap show, and we got him here tonight.
He's never really gone there.
What's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
All right. I am live from Portillo's in Denton, Texas.
That seems very authentic.
The famous beef.
So you were at the show.
Yes. A long show.
6 hours, almost, without the pre-show. So,
Eight for me, because we got there at the beginning of the pre-show.
And so, it's the longest show that you've ever been to.
Easily.
Okay. What about, is it the best show you've ever been to?
That's hard to say. I think it probably will be there's some Dynamites that I had a really great evening, but top to bottom, this was top, just start to finish. She felt like there was a whole story.
Mm-hmm.
People were losing their mind. I lost my mind when I became a child when Bryan Danielson came out.
It happened,
people
right?
pointing up at the rafters for Darby. I mean, it was everything. It all happened.
So what was the moment for you that you're going to remember in all of this? Like the iconic moments that you're going to wake up tomorrow like, man, I can't believe I saw that.
A lot of ultra violence. And let's see. Honestly, just seeing Will Osprey come out for the first time. I don't think I've ever seen him before, and just getting that full entrance with the pyro and everything. That match was great. Really, though, the moment for me was Hangman opening up that briefcase. That paid off great. It really paid off great in the room. For as much as we complained about the Death Riders gimmick and how long it was a slog getting here, like it all paid off so well in the arena. Just people were just I had a buddy that came down with us who doesn't give a rip about wrestling and doesn't know anything, and we're on a 3-hour drive to the show, and we're priming him by just telling him the entire backstory of the entire Hangman Page saga from 5 years ago to now. And so by the end of it, he's like, Swerve's going to come out and help him, isn't he? And he was predicting all the things. And so when he held that belt up, like my buddy who had never been into wrestling before was like
Validated.
wildly. So it was great. Yeah.
Okay, so best match, worst match, and should have been on Collision.
I think I think most of the pre-show should have been bumped. I think they should have put the women's gauntlet in the pre-show. And I think you could have bumped the TNT title match, but it was a great moment. Like no one cared about the match. Everyone was very depressed during the match. You could just tell. I took a walk and I was walking through the halls, went to the men's room, and like no one was even talking to each other. People were just down. And then we were like sitting there saying, maybe they could have to win, not thinking it was going to actually happen. But when he did, and everyone in the, who knows what we'll actually find out, but everyone in the arena, the people around us, got the impression Dustin didn't know he was winning. That like the spot was for Sammy to break up the pin and Sammy didn't break it up.
That's interesting.
Now, I don't know, that's whether it just got lost in the moment or whether it was just us, getting worked in a great way or.
I mean, it was a great moment, right? Like it
just felt like very genuine.
It was the right call. And we were talking about it earlier in the show in that after the Adam Cole moment, right? Which is absolutely devastating on so many levels. Like everyone watching it had the same just guttural, like devastating, like your heart felt for this guy. You weren't sure what was going on, and then you did, and it was just all bad. Kyle Fletcher would have been forgotten completely. Like him winning, no one. You give someone a shock, feel good moment, everyone just assumed Kyle Fletcher was just going to win this match, and we're just going to move full steam ahead. Now you've given people that Dustin moment. You've finished his story, if you will, right? And in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, Fletcher can be like, I was owed a one-on-one match. And he gets his one-on-one match, and we're right back to it. And you still get this moment where from complete devastation, you got the Texas sun, and everyone's just like shocked out into smiling again. And it was just like, that's good booking. Like you may think it's hot shotting, but you had to do something.
It was good hot shotting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was the right
decision. What are you getting on
because it perked everybody up. I've got
have you gotten your food order for Portillo's? Am I holding you up?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, we just got it. So there's my guy. Got a little beef sandwich.
That is the cue to say thank you so much for popping in. It was great to get some feedback live from the show. And would you recommend people going to the big AEW show next year?
Absolutely. It was super long, but it was worth it.
Excellent. Kevin, thank you. It's been too long, my man, and I hope that you join me on a podcast soon so we can chop it up talking about AEW because I do truly miss talking to you about this stuff.
I do too, my friend. I'll check in
one day. Maybe not tomorrow, but one day.
Yeah.
All the best to you, buddy. Take care.
All right. Bye.
All right, we got one more guy here for us tonight. We got BJ Bethel joining us. And BJ, we are just wrapping up the show here, but we have gone through the media scrum. We have gone through the show. We have gone through everything. And I want to hear, what did you think about this show?
It's AEW delivers on its pay-per-views. I missed quite a bit. We had thunderstorms in the area, which is one reason I was struggling to get on with you. Thanks for having patience and waiting, or at
It
least,
all worked out.
catching me here at the end, but they just deliver. I saw a lot of comparisons with the ending because, you had run-ins, you had things like that, and they're comparing it to the Cody Mania match, but
It's the
I
big
think
show at
AEW
the end
really
of the
kind of,
year, right?
what's that?
It's the big show at the end of the year. You're supposed to
Yeah.
pull the kitchen sink out.
But also, I think it goes back to maybe All Out 2021 when they had Cole and Danielson and Ruby Soho almost basically debut at the same exact moment, kind of feeding. Instead, what really surprised me this show was you had no free agent debuts, but you had all these like surprises, like in the women's and men's matches, where you just had people you hadn't seen in a while, and they were super over when they appeared. And I think that really speaks well to how they've managed the roster, how they've changed momentum, gotten the fans' faith back in the product. I thought Hangman Moxley was great. Moxley's probably the best heel in the business, best heel of the decade. People have really been down on this run, and I think people understand that the job of a heel is not to get you to like them.
Right.
And Mox understands that very well. And he's also a guy who's very old school, taught in his use of ring psychologies and his promos. This is a guy who's been through Les Thatcher's school. This is somebody who, really learned the deep down kind of old school Southeast Crockett style mid Atlantic wrestling, and then kind of used that ability to story tell through that and the hardcore, and made his own kind of thing with it. And if you look at ratings, if you look at YouTube numbers, I think Moxley's kind of the MVP of the company. Just over the last year, he's built something for them to like make baby faces off of and get other people over, and it spilled over into other aspects of the company. I think another great example of that's Mercedes, also Tony Storm. I mean, you watch that show tonight, it's like, wow, all these guys are stars.
Yeah,
They're
they're setting up that women's division pretty well. Like you put those 8 women in matches with each other for the last 3 months, right? And
Yeah.
by the time you got them into the Casino Gauntlet, they'd all worked with each other. They'd all like spent
Yes.
time with each other. And when it was big stage time, they could go, and there wasn't that lack of organic chemistry between them. Like they were familiar with everything. And even like Thunder Rosa, she lost everything when she's not in Texas, but for whatever reason, when she's in Texas, she's able to, tap into whatever it was that made her what she is. And so
Yeah.
I thought everybody generally delivered when it came to those Casino Gauntlets. Now, let me ask you this. Which Casino Gauntlet do you think delivered more on future potential?
I think the women's did. I mean, I just think the way, just Aminata, just in Thala, the way they battled back. You had Billy Starks getting involved with Athena. I think just having Athena win that, and it kind of finally established that, okay, she's in the main event in AEW now. After 3 years of basically carrying a ROH on her back, and with Banditos and Takeshita's outfit, especially after the fantastic match they had, at Supercard, I think that they don't need her as much, so this is her chance to really climb in up into that card. I was surprised Toni won. I do think that was a smart move, but I think as far as the gauntlet, where you look at the feud, you look at how that was set up, I'm kind of wondering where Statlander goes from here. But I think she's somebody that should be in the main event scene. She's got that physical ability. She's got the physical charisma. She's not a promo like Mercedes or Toni, but you don't have to be that. I mean, she can get over on her wrestling. I mean, anybody can do 450 splashes like she can, and just as big and athletic and as strong as she is, and just charismatic. I think she's, somebody to watch out for. But I just thought watching both, I thought the men's was great, but I just thought the women's probably set them up better for the next, several months.
Yeah, I'm looking at the women's division. I feel like there's 4 people on that cusp of a breakout. And that would be Athena, Megan
Yes.
Bayne, Statlander, and Willow. Now, Willow is my belt her. She is all the money in the company to me. And I thought she looked like $1 million, and she has been working tremendously. How do I phrase this? Working tremendously hard on all aspects of her presentation to be as main event as possible.
Yes. I mean, she's been the only woman that they've matched against Marina. So that tells you where they see her as far as star level. Mercedes, when she got hurt, it was wrestling. It was wrestling Willow in New Japan, and this was a couple years ago before Willow was getting established, and she was already this great, charismatic, amazing baby face with the winningest smile in wrestling. But Mercedes made the call to give her the New Japan Strong title in the middle of the ring. That wasn't supposed to happen.
Mhm.
She got hurt. She could have very easily just rolled her Willow up and and limped out of the ring and then just dropped the belt. No, she gave her the belt. So I think that tells you to just the respect that the other women have in the division for her. And I think she's at some point it's going to be her. It's going to be her title. It's going to be an interesting road. The way they've been booking things. There's been things where I'm going, man, what are they thinking? But then it ends up paying off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really looking that way. I think they're playing things out right, but they're also wrapping things up in the right manner. I thought the way they did the ending in night, it was gonna have to. You needed, with as much as they put into the Death Rider storyline, it really had to have this kind of ending to it because it's been a gang battle. And those
Sure.
are always the best wrestling storylines, whether it's the Four Horsemen against Dusty and Magnum, or if it's the Russians and the Road Warriors, or if it's the NWO and WCW, or if it's Vince and whoever he's got against, Austin and baby faces, or, I mean, that's always the Bullet. Let me look at New Japan and the Bullet Club, you know, um, and Chaos and Suzuki Goon and all that. I mean, when AEW really was rolling was right from the beginning. A lot of that was because of the Inner Circle versus the Elite. That's always seems to be the best storylines that fans can get involved in
Mm-hmm.
because it's kind of this all-encompassing drama thing where the baby faces are desperate, and they did a really great job of presenting that. And I think the MVP of that would be Will Osprey, because he was just trying to talk to Swerve like how important it was that one of the 3 of them win that title. It had to be one of them.
Right.
It wasn't
Right.
like presented in a WWE way where everybody's kind of their own individual self, and then we do tag matches. We do these angry tag matches together before our actual pay-per-view main event, which I haven't really done for a while, but I don't like the characterization of much. I thought it was much more human, much more relatable in AEW, and I thought that really paid off in the last year or so. Especially, I think Osprey's clear in a way going to be the star of the future.
Yeah, I'm worried about Osprey personally. I know that there's an idea. I know that there's an idea that in 9 months, positioning him to be the top guy is clearly a good idea. But you are taking into account that he doesn't get injured, and with his work rate style, that's 100% a risk.
Yeah.
And how many times can you put him in a position to not win the big one in scenarios in the past and keep him feeling special?
That's a great point. I think if anybody can keep that going, because you got to, I mean, I look, this is New
You're
Japan,
gambling.
but look
That's
at
it.
Goto's reaction when he got the title. Like they kind of needed to go to him, but he was always the guy who never won it. And then when he wins it, he wins over the crowd, he becomes a draw. I think if anybody can keep that going and play the underdog role, I mean, it's probably harder to be an underdog as far as Osprey goes.
Yeah, he
But
has that natural charm.
yeah, he has such natural charm, and it's like you watch him in the ring, and it's like, okay, this guy's the greatest wrestler in the world. Okay. I mean, there's nobody better than, I mean, there's maybe some guys that are as good as him, but there's nobody better. And I mean, one of my I always like these kind of storylines. I mean, my favorite in New Japan storyline, one of them was Hanma. You know, he couldn't win a match for like a year. Then he gets in a tag
Still can't
league.
win a match.
Yeah, he still can't win a match. You know, he's winning. He's just barely losing against all these stars. He's losing to everybody. You know, then he gets in the New Japan Tag League in some miracle run, and they ended up, you know, winning the New Japan Tag titles. And then WWE steals that storyline with Heath Slater and Rhino. but 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 it's like I like that style. I like to think, okay, can he win the big one? Can he win the big one? I mean, that's a question the greats all faced. Michael Jordan faced that. Um, John Elway faced that. You know,
You're
Peyton
not
Manning
great if
faced that.
you don't face it, and you're not great if you can't rise to the moment.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I think I'd be a great build up. You know, build it back up to then, and you know, we'll see. I mean, but I will say this. I mean, his style when he has been injured is you get injured bad. Um, and especially doing the high risk stuff. But yeah, that's definitely a big concern. I mean, look, how many people thought we'd only have one Danielson Omega match when Danielson went there in 2021?
Yeah.
We're now in the middle of 2025. We've had one Danielson Omega match, right? So
I think we're only getting one.
then it's probably the only one we're ever getting. Who would have ever thought that was the case? When we had that match at, you know,
There was a long time, BJ, where we never thought we would ever get that match.
yeah,
So those goalposts are constantly shifting in a positive direction, which I like.
yeah. I think that's one thing when you have two companies that are paying good money and offering, and they're doing well creatively, and they're doing well, you know, with their audiences. And I think that's one plus of it is that you can get a lot of these matches based on if you can pull over the right people that mesh and do well with your stuff, and you know, and work with your company guys, or if they have the right chemistry. And some of it's unexpected. I mean, who would have thought Swerve Strickland coming over and Hangman Page would just have the most chemistry of maybe anybody working against each other?
Their creative ability with each other, because they have worked on a lot behind the scenes. I know that they worked on getting Ricochet over,
Oh
and a
yeah,
couple of they were very they are very intricately tied to a lot of the top creative processes in AEW, and they
they
don't get their
should be.
flowers for that.
They their thought process on this stuff, Swerve and Hangman, is so much above
It's
everybody
thoughtfulness.
else. It is, yeah, they're thoughtful. They take into consideration each other. And if you look at this feud, it's like, you know, we've been waiting for, you know, them to get the redemption, each of them, but we're only getting it pieces at a time. And that's been one good thing about this is that, you know, it's like even tonight, you know, you don't know if Swerve's going to hit Hangman with the chain. You know, I mean, the pop when Nana popped up out from behind the desk and had handcuffed Shafir was just, I mean, you would have thought Goldberg was
People were
coming
like, "Here
down.
we
You would have thought,
go."
yeah, it's like you would have thought Prince Nana would have had one of the biggest pops in the main event. I mean, he did. Even though there was a ton of pop. I mean, it was just a great way
Yeah.
to end the show. It was funny. I was reading a lot of WWE fan reaction, and they were like, "Wow, this is a lot like the Bloodline storyline, except there's actually blood." And they said it. They really. And it was funny because people reacted because you're not getting music when these people are coming down,
Yeah.
which AEW typically does music for the run-ins, but they didn't tonight, and I thought it really played much better that way. I've never been a fan of too much music during the run-ins.
Well, they did a bunch of music for the other ones that it just didn't play very well. Like when Copeland came out and he did the Penta style entrance and Mystico did the Penta style entrance, you were actually really happy when Mina came out and she didn't dance, she just came out and started beating some ass. And
Yeah,
so like it wasn't a time for the wrestlers to be celebrating themselves. Like they were out there with the purpose of helping Hangman.
yeah. It's like we're not ready for the big flash and all this. And with Copeland, there's kind of you can say there's some storyline behind it. He's not all right with Cage, but you know I'm gonna come down and
Yeah,
save your butt.
I'm gonna let you just kind of maybe die for a second.
Yeah, I'm
And
gonna let you be on the verge
I
of
get that.
death. Then I'm gonna come down, save you, and kind of rub it in your face, and I'm gonna walk out. But it's funny. ECW really started that stuff, and it seemed to work better there. I don't know why. I think it's maybe because it was fresher. But I think in that smaller environment, and you're also using kind of really, I mean, you're using songs like Interim Sandman and Natural Born Killers. It just kind of, those are epic, culturally iconic songs that some of these wrestlers were really identified with. It gets over almost in a more Shakespearean level. But but I liked how they did the main event where they didn't do any of that. I thought putting a Darby promo in from Mount Everest and
That
then
was pretty great.
having Danielson run in, and everyone's just like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And then, and the announcers really kept it over. He was forced out of retirement. We don't know if he
You,
can do this,
you know
and
who
then
I called Hangman's team of help?
what's
I called
that?
them the Portland Trailblazers.
That's what it was, man. It's like they should have had this pay-per-view in Portland,
Just all the Washington guys are there. Just
Yeah,
like,
get
yep, the
Clyde
Portland
Drexler out.
Trailblazers here to help the Hangman.
Yeah, everybody but Clyde Drexler was out there, man. And
Yeah.
but
I think that we are heading in a really solid direction for the entirety of AEW in general. When I was watching Hangman come out tonight, I felt like it was like a metaphor, and I mentioned this earlier. It was like a metaphor for the entirety of AEW healing itself from a really traumatic last few years.
yeah,
And the entirety of this show just felt like a writing of a ship. And the shows, probably all the way back to World's End, have felt like a slow, intrinsic course correction, getting back to what AEW needed to be. And I feel like this show today was a mission statement from AEW that reminded them of this is who like they are. And
yeah,
WWE could do whatever they wanted tonight, right? Like they can have their show, they can do whatever. AEW intentionally went longer to fuck with them after
yeah.
everything that they did tonight, and I couldn't be happier for it.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
is it a 6-hour show? Yeah. Does it suck? Yeah. Do I want it all the time? No, but I get why they did it, and I got no issues whatsoever.
I thought it was interesting that Triple H had I don't know, I'm guessing somebody in the office used his account and put up a promo for Bash and the other three shows, and he got, I don't know if you're familiar with the Twitter term ratioed,
Yes, I'm aware.
but he got ratioed like a bad math class. I don't know how else to put it. It was, I mean, there was just hundreds of people posting AEW gifs and just graphics of All In and all this stuff. And it was like the fans rebelling back, like, we know what you're doing and we don't like it. I mean, I think that
Yeah,
fans at this point are educated of what WWF, WWE's done in the past to other companies. And, and people can say, that's their right to do that. It's their competition to do that. But at the same time, it's like, well, remember when WCW did it? How did they react? They
right.
whined and cried. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to make sure our Mox and Page Hangman match, we're going to make sure our Mox and Hangman match goes right into the front end of that Saturday night main event show. And I don't blame them one bit for that.
This is a great strategy by AEW, and the biggest self-owned by WWE in all of this, truly, is that they put on 3 shows that combined ticket sales did not match the sales for the one AEW show on the weekend.
Yeah.
And they potentially will lose actual over-the-air ratings as a result of the AEW show. It may not show up on Peacock, but you may see some numbers in which the retirement of Goldberg doesn't look quite so attractive on the actual Nielsen rating as it should. And that's how you
Yeah.
play the game.
It is. Meltzer said they would have like a record, like a very strong pay-per-view buy rate if they got just 80,000 buys, which would be low, generally low for an AEW pay-per-view. But I think it's going to do much better than that. I think Tony Khan kind of hinted in the presser that it was one of their best shows.
So
I
that means
think he
over
said maybe
150.
it would have to be. I don't think it would. I can't imagine it would be that much going up against so much WWE competition, and I don't think they've done 150 since they've had Punk. Punk was a
It
major
would
pay per
be a
view
huge feather in their cap if that was the number they beat.
if they get that number, and if they get that number, and let's say I think get around 30,000 walk up, do around 30,000 or more walk up with the tickets. I mean, you got WWE's got to really kind of look back and wonder, is it really worth it to do this?
Right.
Because they're not making. I mean, it doesn't matter. They got more money in God at this point, so they can do what they want. But I mean, when you're doing shows like this and you're hot shotting just to run interference against another company, it's going to affect your creative process. It's gonna really hurt. Having the Goldberg match kind of really helped because that's just a one-off that you can stick in there instead of having a hot shot a match that for too early in a feud or something that you were expecting to go better on a PLE. Um, but I mean, creative, they seem to be on the downside.
Yes.
That's
That's the ebb and flow of the wrestling business, though, right? Like that's
yeah.
how
I
it
mean,
works.
and that's normal. I mean, they were on the hottest streak they've ever had for 2-3 years, and I think there's been a numerous things that's popped up to cause that. I think one of it's I don't think they've really ever I don't think they really fully embraced Cody as the top guy. There's always seemed to be a little bit of hesitancy there.
Mhm.
And I mean, even after he won the title, the focus was on what's happening with the bloodline. And we'll see what happens there. Maybe the Cena title run hasn't been great, even though he's finally got over as a babyface. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what there. But I think if you're AEW, I think right now you got to think, okay, who's our heels? I think right now Don Callis' family's set up to do that. I don't know if Moxley's going to take a break or not. I imagine he will because he's been basically running headstrong all out for months. He's got to be exhausted. Maybe some other people in the Death Riders step up. Maybe they focus more on the women. Maybe I don't know. But just like,
Yeah.
who's your heels? Who's going to challenge Hangman? What's going to happen from here on out? And they probably have some of that plan to go already. That seems to be there seems to be a lot of forethought putting in what they're doing. And I mean, I can't imagine they just decided to quit doing that at All In. I'm sure they got some things moving forward. They got plans for.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the next 6 months of AEW. BJ, I got to wrap this up. I want to thank you so much for
Hey, I want to
coming
say
tonight.
you're a trooper for being on here for an hour and 47 minutes, cranking this out for your fans, and
Nailed
just
it.
a great job, man. And
Nailed it. I
just
believe in myself. That's what it is. Give me your plugs.
well, you can read my stuff at secoops.com. You can also check me out at bbethel.substack.com if you want to check some of my interviews out. And also, I'm always on Twitter. If you see an annoying people going crazy, there's a good chance it's something about something I wrote. So,
No.
but thank you, sir. Thanks for having me on. And you guys are always awesome. I'm a big fan of the show.
Thank you so much, sir. Stick around for a minute. I'll talk to you off the air, but thank you to everybody. This has been an excellent pay-per-view recap. Thank you to everyone who joined in the comments. We had Crash TV, Maria, Fernando, Esteban, Bleach Fan. Who was the guy at the top that I'm missing? Jonathan Messenger, Fernando Zayas. Thank you so much, everybody. We will see you next time, and peace out.